It all started at McGreevy's pub on a Friday night. The place was packed, buzzing with chatter and clinking glasses. I wasn't there for a night out, I just needed some space to think. My name's Luke, and up until recently, I thought I had my life pretty much figured out. A good job, a decent house, and a wife, Erica, who I thought was the love of my life. But lately, things had been off, way off. Erica's behavior had shifted in ways I couldn't ignore. Late nights at work, secretive texts, and that cold distance in her touch, I chalked it up to stress, but something gnawed at me, whispering that there was more. Still, I wasn't prepared for what was about to go down that night. As I sat nursing my drink, lost in thought, I barely noticed the two burly men who walked in. They were big, real big. Beards like lumberjacks and a look in their eyes that screamed trouble. I didn't think much of it until they made a beeline for me. "You know who we are, you bastard," one of them growled, his voice like gravel. Before I could respond, his fist connected with my shoulder, knocking me off balance. "What the hell?" I started, but the other guy shoved me back into my chair. "You've been screwing around with our wives," the first man barked, his face inches from mine. "Wait, what? You've got the wrong guy," I shouted, trying to make sense of what was happening. But they weren't listening. The second guy swung at me, and instinct kicked in. I dodged, barely, and threw a punch that landed square on his jaw. The impact was satisfying, but the adrenaline didn't stop the reality from sinking in. These guys were dead serious. Their accusations were ridiculous. I didn't even know who their wives were, but something told me this wasn't random. Someone had set me up. The bar erupted into chaos. Chairs scraped against the floor, and people scattered to avoid the fight. The bartender yelled for us to take it outside, but the two men weren't backing down. "Think you can play innocent? We've got proof," one of them spat, pulling out a phone. Before I could process what he meant, a bouncer stepped in and broke up the fight. "Out! All of you," he barked, shoving us toward the door. Once outside, the cold night air hit me, but my mind was spinning. Proof? Proof of what? I didn't have time to dwell on it, though, because as the men stormed off, one of them shouted over his shoulder, "You'll pay for this, Luke." Standing there on the sidewalk, fists clenched and heart pounding, I realized two things. 1, someone wanted to ruin me. 2, I was going to find out who, and why. But as I headed home that night, bruised and furious, I had no idea just how deep this rabbit hole would go. The drive home felt like it stretched for hours. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, my thoughts racing as I replayed the confrontation in the bar. The accusations those men threw at me didn't just sting, they opened a floodgate of paranoia I wasn't prepared to face. Who would go so far as to frame me? And for what? Erica's face flashed through my mind. I shook my head, almost as if I could physically push the thought away. No. She wouldn't. But wouldn't she? The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. Normally, Erica would leave a light on if she wasn't home yet, but these days, normal didn't mean much anymore. I stepped inside, my pulse quickening when I heard faint movement upstairs. For a split second, I thought about grabbing the baseball bat by the door. Instead, I quietly climbed the stairs. The bedroom door was ajar, and inside, Erica sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand. She jumped when she saw me. "Luke. You scared me," she said, quickly locking her screen and placing the phone face down beside her. That tiny action, the deliberate movement of her phone, ignited something in me. The doubts, the nagging suspicions, the pit in my stomach that had been growing for weeks, it all came roaring to the surface. "What are you doing sitting here in the dark?" I asked, trying to keep my tone even. She shrugged, her voice airy. "Just scrolling. I couldn't sleep." "Really? Scrolling in the dark?" She rolled her eyes, the same dismissive look she'd been giving me lately whenever I asked questions. What's with the third degree? You're home late. I didn't answer. Instead, I grabbed the remote and turned on the TV, the screen illuminating the room. It cast a stark light over her face, and for a moment, I thought I saw guilt flash in her eyes. Why are you acting so weird? She asked, folding her arms defensively. I could ask you the same thing, I shot back, stepping closer. You've been working late a lot, Erica. And don't even get me started on how secretive you've been with your phone. She laughed, but it was cold and hollow. Wow. Paranoid much? Are you seriously accusing me of something? I don't know, should I be? I countered, my voice rising. Because tonight, two guys I've never met tried to rearrange my face, claiming I've been messing around with their wives. Care to explain that? Her expression flickered. For a moment, just a fraction of a second, I saw something behind her facade. Fear? Guilt? Whatever it was, it vanished as quickly as it came. That's insane, she said, shaking her head. Luke, you're being ridiculous. I don't know anything about that. But I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. You don't know anything about it? Really? Because they sure seem to know a lot about me. Maybe you should think about who you've been hanging out with, she snapped, standing up. Maybe this has nothing to do with me. The audacity of her deflection made my blood boil. Don't you dare turn this around on me, I said, my voice trembling with anger. You've been lying to me, Erica. I don't have to be a detective to see it. Lying, she repeated, her tone laced with mockery. You're delusional. I'm not going to sit here and take this crap just because some drunk guys at a bar decided to blame you for their problems. I stared at her, my chest heaving. This wasn't the woman I married. This wasn't the Erica who used to look at me like I was her whole world. Whoever this was standing in front of me, I didn't recognize her. I want to see your phone, I said, my voice steady but firm. She scoffed. Are you serious right now? No. That's my private. Give me the damn phone, Erica. I shouted, the words exploding out of me before I could stop them. She froze, and for a moment, I thought she might actually hand it over. Instead, she picked it up, shoved it into her pocket, and pushed past me. I don't have to deal with this, she said, heading for the door. Running away isn't going to fix this, I called after her. You can't just keep lying. But she didn't stop. The sound of the front door slamming echoed through the house, leaving me standing there, alone and angrier than I'd ever been in my life. I sat down on the bed, my head in my hands. The image of her walking out the door burned in my mind. Every instinct in me screamed to follow her, to demand the truth, but something held me back. A sinking feeling in my gut whispered that whatever she was hiding, I wasn't ready to face it. That night, I barely slept. Every noise outside made me sit up, half expecting her to come home. But she didn't. When the sun finally rose, the anger inside me hadn't faded, it had solidified. I needed answers, and if she wasn't going to give them to me willingly, I'd find them myself. Whatever Erica was hiding, the truth was coming out. And God help her when it did. The next morning felt like walking into a battlefield after the fight had ended, silent but charged with tension. Erica still wasn't home, and her absence only deepened the pit in my stomach. I made coffee, trying to think through my next steps, but every sip tasted bitter. By the time noon rolled around, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and called her. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. That was when my resolve solidified. If she wouldn't tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. Erica wasn't stupid, she wouldn't leave anything obvious lying around. But people get sloppy when they think they've got the upper hand. I went to the bedroom and opened her dresser drawers. Nothing unusual. same with the closet. Then I spotted her laptop. She always kept it on the nightstand, but now it was missing. My heart raced as I thought about what she might be hiding on there. Her tablet, though, she'd forgotten that. I grabbed it, powering it up and sitting on the bed. It was locked, of course. But Erica wasn't exactly creative with passwords. After 2 tries, I got it, Erica 1987. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her apps. Most were harmless, social media, streaming services, but when I opened her email, my heart stopped. There, under her sent folder, was an email chain that made my stomach turn. Subject: can't stop thinking about you. To redacted. I stared at the screen, my breathing shallow as I read the words. She wasn't just cheating, she was pouring her heart out to this person. Long paragraphs about missing their time together and how Luke wouldn't understand. My blood boiled as I read on. They'd been meeting at hotels, sneaking around like teenagers. Then I noticed something else, a thread with photos. I hesitated, but my anger outweighed my hesitation. When I opened it, my worst fears were confirmed. There she was, in some hotel room, grinning like a kid in a candy store, with someone who wasn't me. I slammed the tablet down, breathing heavily. The room spun as I tried to process what I'd seen. It wasn't just about the betrayal anymore. It was the lies, the deceit, the gall of her actions. Then came the text notification. It was her tablet, so naturally, it was synced to her phone. The message preview popped up. Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again. I couldn't read the rest before it disappeared. My rage was like a tidal wave crashing through me. How could she? After everything we'd built together? My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my spiral. It was a text from Erica. I'll be home later. Don't wait up. Don't wait up. Like she wasn't walking back into a marriage she'd stomped on with her betrayal. I knew then what I had to do. By the time Erica walked through the door that evening, I was ready. I sat at the kitchen table, her tablet next to me, the email chain open on the screen. She froze when she saw me, her keys still in her hand. "What's this?" I asked, my tone as calm as I could manage. She didn't answer right away, her eyes flicking from me to the tablet. Her face paled, but then something surprising happened, she smirked. "What, you've been snooping now," she said, dropping her bag on the counter. "Snooping?" I repeated, incredulous. "You don't get to play the victim here, Erica." "I know. About the emails. The photos. All of it." She crossed her arms, her expression defiant. "And what exactly do you think you know, Luke?" Her tone, her dismissiveness, it sent me over the edge. "I know you've been cheating. I know you've been sneaking off to hotels. I know you've been lying to my face for God knows how long." She laughed. Actually laughed. "And? What do you want me to say, Luke? That I'm sorry? That it didn't mean anything? Would that make you feel better?" Her words were like daggers, each one twisting deeper than the last. "Are you even sorry?" I asked, my voice cracking. She rolled her eyes. "What do you want from me? This marriage hasn't been working for years, and you know it. Maybe if you weren't so boring, so predictable, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere." Her cruelty stunned me into silence. I'd braced myself for excuses, for apologies, for anything other than this. "Wow," I finally said, shaking my head. "So this is all my fault now?" "You always think everything is about you," she snapped. Maybe I wanted something for myself for once. Her words felt like acid, burning through any love I still had for her. I stood up, towering over her. "You wanted something for yourself? So you decided to destroy our marriage in the process? Don't be so dramatic, she said, rolling her eyes. People cheat all the time. It's not the end of the world. That was it. The last straw. I grabbed my keys and walked toward the door. Where are you going? She called after me, her tone still dismissive. Somewhere you can't lie to my face anymore, I said, slamming the door behind me. As I drove aimlessly through the night, a mix of fury and heartbreak consumed me. Erica's words kept echoing in my mind, people cheat all the time. How could she trivialize something so devastating? I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing for sure, I couldn't keep living in this sham of a marriage. Tomorrow, I'd call a lawyer. The next morning, I woke up on the couch in my friend Mark's living room. I'd driven to his place after leaving the house, needing somewhere to crash and someone to talk to. Mark had always been my go-to guy, a no-nonsense, tell-it-like-it-is kind of friend. Coffee's in the kitchen, he said when I stumbled into the living room, rubbing my temples. Thanks, I muttered, pouring a cup. He joined me at the table, his expression serious. You're gonna have to deal with this head-on, Luke. What's your plan? I'm calling a lawyer, I said, my voice flat. That's a start, he nodded. But what about Erica? You can't just let her waltz away from this unscathed. His words stuck with me. Erica had shown zero remorse. She was the kind of person who'd light a fire and then walk away while it burned. I couldn't let her get away with it, not entirely. Mark handed me his phone. Start with this guy. He handled my divorce. He's sharp and doesn't take crap from anyone. I nodded, dialing the number. The lawyer, Jack Reynolds, picked up almost immediately. After a brief conversation, we set up a meeting for later that afternoon. By the time I got to Jack's office, I felt slightly more composed, though the anger still simmered beneath the surface. Jack was a tall, lean man with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. He gestured for me to sit and got straight to the point. So, your wife's been cheating, he said, flipping open a notepad. Yeah, I said, feeling the anger bubble up again. And she doesn't even care. She practically threw it in my face. Jack nodded, jotting something down. Did you get any proof? Emails, photos, and a text I saw on her tablet, I said. Good. That's a strong start. Here's what we'll do. Jack laid out a plan that involved gathering more evidence, ensuring the division of assets favored me, and preparing for any tricks Erica might pull. He emphasized staying calm, no matter what she did next. I left Jack's office feeling more focused than I had in days. But as I drove back to my place to grab a few things, I couldn't shake the sense that Erica wouldn't just roll over and accept defeat. She was vindictive, and I knew she'd fight dirty if she had to. When I walked into the house, I found her sitting in the living room, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Oh, look who's back, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I'm here to grab my stuff, I said, not meeting her eyes. She smirked. What, you're moving out now? That's mature. I didn't respond. I went straight upstairs, grabbed a duffel bag, and started packing clothes. As I zipped it up, I heard her footsteps behind me. You're seriously leaving? She asked, leaning against the doorframe. Yeah, Erica. I am, I said, my voice cold. Good, she snapped. Maybe this is for the best. You're better at walking away than fixing things anyway. I turned to her, fury flashing in my eyes. Fixing things? You're the one who blew this marriage to hell, Erica. Don't you dare try to pin this on me. She shrugged, her expression annoyingly smug. If you say so. I pushed past her, bag in hand, and headed for the door. But before I could leave, she called out, You're not gonna get everything you want, you know. You're not as smart as you think. Her words lingered as I walked out. What did she mean by that? Later that night, I was at Mark's place, updating him on everything when my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Stay out of this, Luke. You're making things worse for yourself." "What the hell?" I muttered, showing it to Mark. "Do you think it's one of those guys from the bar?" he asked. "Maybe," I said, frowning. "Or maybe it's whoever Erica's been seeing." Mark's expression darkened. "You need to be careful, man. If they're threatening you now, this could get messy." Messy didn't even begin to describe it. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over, not by a long shot. The next day, I decided to follow up on one of Jack's suggestions, hiring a private investigator. If Erica wanted to play dirty, I'd fight fire with fire. The PI, a woman named Rachel, was efficient and professional. She assured me she'd dig up everything I needed to build my case. "People like your wife always slip up," she said. "It's just a matter of catching them at the right time." I left the meeting feeling cautiously optimistic. But that optimism was short-lived. That evening, as I sat at Mark's place scrolling through emails, I got another message. This one was a photo of me leaving Jack's office. Below it, a message read, "You're poking the wrong bear, Luke." Chills ran down my spine. Someone was watching me. Someone knew my every move. "This is getting out of control," I said to Mark, showing him the message. "You need to bring this to the police," he said, his tone serious. But I hesitated. What would I even tell them? That someone was sending me cryptic threats? Without concrete evidence, it felt like a dead end. For now, I'd focus on the PI's investigation and trust that Jack would help me stay ahead. But deep down, I knew this fight was far from over. Erica wasn't just a cheating wife, she was playing a game, and I had no idea how far she'd go to win. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Rachel, the private investigator. "I've got something," she said, her voice brisk. "Can you meet me at my office in an hour?" Mark overheard the call and raised an eyebrow. "You think she's found something serious?" "Only one way to find out," I said, grabbing my jacket. Rachel's office was nondescript, tucked into a corner of a strip mall. She greeted me with a firm handshake and motioned for me to sit across from her desk. A file folder sat between us. "What did you find?" I asked, my stomach churning. She opened the folder and slid over a few photos. They showed Erica leaving a swanky restaurant, her arm casually draped around the shoulder of a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, fit, with the kind of polished look that screamed money. "This is her guy," Rachel said, pointing to him. "Name's Adrian Blake. Divorced, no kids. Owns a couple of car dealerships downtown." The name sounded vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place it. "Here's where it gets interesting," Rachel continued. "Adrian has a bit of a reputation. Multiple affairs, shady business dealings, and at least 2 exes who claim he's aggressive when things don't go his way." "Sounds like a real catch," I muttered, flipping through the photos. Rachel tapped the edge of the file. "There's more. I followed them to a hotel 2 nights ago. They were there for hours. I also pulled some records. He's been covering her expenses. Hotel bills, gifts, even a payment toward her credit card." I leaned back in my chair, my mind racing. "So, she's not just cheating, she's being funded." "Looks like it," Rachel said. "I thought you'd want to know." "Thanks, Rachel," I said, standing up. This is exactly what I needed. As I drove back to Mark's place, the weight of it all pressed down on me. Erica wasn't just having an affair, she'd fully aligned herself with this Adrian guy, leaving me to look like a fool. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Erica. "We need to talk." For a moment, I considered ignoring it. But then a thought struck me, what if she knew I was gathering evidence? What if she was planning her next move? I texted back, "Fine. I'll be home in an hour." When I walked into the house, Erica was waiting for me in the kitchen. She was leaning against the counter, sipping a glass of wine like nothing was wrong. "Glad you could make time," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Let's skip the games, Erica," I said, setting my bag down. "What do you want?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh, don't act so high and mighty, Luke. I just thought we should talk about where this is going." "Where this is going?" I repeated, my voice incredulous. "This is going straight to a divorce lawyer, Erica." Her expression didn't falter. If anything, she seemed amused. "Of course it is. Because that's what you do, Luke. You cut and run when things get tough." I laughed bitterly. "You're unbelievable. You cheat, you lie, and somehow this is my fault? Maybe if you'd been paying attention, this wouldn't have happened," she snapped. "Paying attention?" I shouted. "You mean like you paid attention to your wedding vows? Or was that just a warm-up for all the other lies you were planning to tell?" She set her glass down with a loud clink, her eyes narrowing. "You're not as innocent as you like to think. And for the record, I don't need your sanctimonious lectures." I clenched my fists, trying to keep my temper in check. "You've got some nerve, Erica. You've been sneaking around with Adrian Blake, of all people. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" That wiped the smirk off her face. For the first time, she looked genuinely unsettled. "How do you?" "Because I'm not an idiot," I interrupted. "I hired someone to look into it. And guess what? She found plenty." Erica's composure cracked, but only for a moment. Then she straightened, her expression cold. "So what? You think that gives you the moral high ground?" I shook my head, laughing in disbelief. "You're unbelievable. You don't even deny it. You just double down like it's no big deal." She stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. "You always think you're the victim, Luke. But you're not. You're just a placeholder, a safe bet until something better came along." Her words were a slap in the face, but I refused to let her see how deeply they cut. "Enjoy your better, Erica," I said, grabbing my bag and heading for the door. "Because when this is over, you're going to be left with nothing." That night, back at Mark's place, I finally let myself feel the full weight of what had happened. The anger, the sadness, the disbelief, it all came crashing down. "She's not worth it," Mark said, handing me a beer. "Let her dig her own grave." "Yeah," I said, though my voice lacked conviction. But as I stared at the ceiling later that night, one thought kept circling my mind: Erica wasn't done. She was too spiteful, too manipulative to let this end cleanly. And I was right. The next morning, I woke up to a message from my lawyer. "We've got a problem. Call me ASAP." Jack Reynolds picked up on the second ring, his voice sharp and to the point. "Luke, we've got a situation," he said. "What now?" I asked, sitting up in bed, dreading his answer. "Your wife's lawyer sent over some interesting claims this morning," Jack said. "She's alleging emotional abuse and neglect as grounds for her actions. She's trying to paint you as the villain." My jaw dropped. Emotional abuse? Neglect? Are you kidding me? Jack sighed. "Unfortunately, this isn't uncommon. It's a classic move to gain leverage in the divorce proceedings." I rubbed my temples, trying to process. "So, what do we do?" "We push back," Jack said firmly. "We've got evidence of her infidelity, and if this goes to court, her claims will look like retaliation. But it's going to get messy." Messy. That word again. It seemed to be the theme of my life lately. Later that day, I sat across from Jack in his office, going over every detail of Erica's accusations. She claimed I was distant, dismissive, and emotionally unavailable. The irony was almost laughable. She's trying to flip the narrative, Jack said. But her timeline doesn't add up. You've got witnesses, friends, family, even co-workers, who can vouch for your character. But this could still hurt me, right? I asked. It could, Jack admitted. Especially if she starts fabricating stories or brings in people to back her up. The thought of Erica dragging my name through the mud made my blood boil. I didn't just want to defend myself, I wanted to expose her for who she really was. As I left Jack's office, my phone buzzed with another message. This time, it was from Rachel, the PI. We need to meet. I've uncovered something big. I drove to her office immediately, my mind racing with possibilities. When I arrived, she was waiting for me with a grim expression. Luke, I've been digging into Adrian Blake, she said, gesturing for me to sit. What did you find? I asked. She slid a document across the desk. It turns out, Adrian isn't just some wealthy businessman. He's also involved in several ongoing lawsuits for fraud. And here's the kicker, he's under investigation for coercion and intimidation. My stomach dropped. Coercion? You mean? Rachel nodded. He has a history of manipulating people, especially women, into doing his dirty work. From what I've gathered, it wouldn't be out of character for him to encourage Erica to make these false claims against you. Unbelievable, I muttered, staring at the document. Rachel leaned forward, her expression serious. Luke, if Adrian is pulling the strings here, this could escalate. You need to be prepared for anything. That night, I couldn't shake the unease. Erica had already proven she was willing to lie and manipulate. With Adrian backing her, there was no telling how far she'd go. As I lay awake, my phone buzzed again. It was another text from the same unknown number. Back off, Luke. You're out of your depth. I clenched my jaw, my heart pounding. Whoever was sending these messages wanted me to feel intimidated, to back down. But if they thought I'd roll over, they were dead wrong. The next morning, I woke to chaos. My phone was blowing up with messages and calls from friends and family. When I checked social media, I saw why. Erica had posted a long, dramatic update about our broken marriage. In it, she painted herself as the victim, claiming I was controlling, cold, and dismissive. The comments section was filled with people offering her sympathy and trashing me without knowing the full story. I called Mark immediately. Have you seen this? Yeah, he said, his voice tense. It's disgusting. She's playing everyone like a fiddle. I need to set the record straight, I said. Mark hesitated. Are you sure that's a good idea? She's already made her move. If you respond publicly, it could make things worse. He had a point, but staying silent felt like admitting guilt. I decided to consult Jack before making any moves. When I showed Jack the post, he shook his head. Typical. She's trying to win the court of public opinion. But responding publicly could backfire. Focus on the legal battle. Let the evidence speak for itself. Reluctantly, I agreed. But it didn't make the situation any easier. Everywhere I went, I felt the weight of people's judgment. Even at work, colleagues avoided eye contact, clearly aware of the drama unfolding online. A few days later, Rachel called with another update. Luke, I've found something that could turn the tide in your favor, she said. When I arrived at her office, she handed me a USB drive. What's this? I asked. Security footage from the hotel Erica and Adrian were frequenting, Rachel said. It shows them together, holding hands, kissing, the whole 9 yards. There's no way she can deny the affair now. It was a smoking gun, and I couldn't wait to show Jack. When Jack saw the footage, he grinned. This changes everything. If she tries to claim emotional abuse, we can use this to discredit her. But I wasn't satisfied with just defending myself. I wanted Erica and Adrian to face consequences for their actions. Can we use this to go on the offensive? I asked. Jack nodded. Absolutely. But you'll need to be ready for the fallout. Erica won't take this lying down. As I left Jack's office, I felt a surge of determination. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was regaining control. But deep down, I knew this fight was far from over. Erica and Adrian had thrown everything they had at me, but now I had the upper hand. The question was, how far would they go to try to take it back? The next morning, I handed the USB drive with the hotel footage to Jack. His face lit up like a kid on Christmas. "This is gold," he said. "We'll submit it as evidence immediately." With this, her credibility takes a major hit. I nodded, but a part of me was still uneasy. Erica had already proven she'd do anything to save face, and Adrian was lurking in the shadows like a puppet master. I couldn't shake the feeling that their next move would be even more sinister. 2 days later, my instincts proved correct. I was at Mark's place, going over the next steps in the divorce with Jack on a video call, when a knock at the door interrupted us. Mark opened it, and standing there was a uniformed police officer. "Luke Carter?" the officer asked, looking past Mark and directly at me. I stood, my stomach tightening. "That's me." The officer stepped inside, holding a folded piece of paper. "You've been served. Temporary restraining order." "What?" I blurted, snatching the document. The officer didn't wait for a response. He handed me the papers, tipped his hat, and left. Mark shut the door, his face a mix of confusion and anger. "What the hell is this about?" I scanned the document, my pulse racing. Erica had filed for the restraining order, claiming she felt unsafe and threatened by me. Jack, still on the video call, cursed under his breath. "This is a classic move. She's trying to box you in, make you look like the aggressor. But it's all lies." I shouted. "I haven't even seen her since I moved out." "It doesn't matter," Jack said. "For now, we have to abide by the order. If you violate it, even accidentally, it could ruin everything." The restraining order was just the beginning. Over the next week, Erica ramped up her smear campaign. Every time I logged into social media or spoke to a mutual friend, I discovered another layer of her lies. She claimed I had anger issues, that I'd been controlling for years, even that I'd tried to sabotage her career. I couldn't believe the lengths she was going to. It wasn't just about winning the divorce anymore, it was about destroying me completely. One night, as I sat at Mark's kitchen table, scrolling through the latest wave of Erica's public accusations, my phone buzzed. It was Rachel, the private investigator. "Luke, I've got something you need to see," she said, her tone urgent. I drove to her office immediately. When I arrived, she wasted no time. "I've been following Adrian Blake more closely," she said, opening her laptop. "And I found something interesting." She played a video clip. It was surveillance footage from a different hotel, recorded just 2 days ago. Adrian was there, but not with Erica. Instead, he was cozying up to another woman. "Wait a second," I said, leaning closer. "Isn't that Samantha Green?" Rachel nodded. "Yep. Erica's best friend." The irony was almost too much to handle. Adrian, the man Erica had thrown her life away for, was cheating on her with her own friend. "Do you think Erica knows?" I asked. "Not yet," Rachel said. "But if she finds out, it could change everything." The next day, I sat down with Jack to discuss our next move. "Do we tell Erica about Adrian's affair?" I asked. Jack frowned. "It's a risky play. If we confront her directly, she might double down out of spite. But if she finds out on her own, it could destabilize her. I mulled it over. As satisfying as it would be to throw Adrian's betrayal in her face, I decided to wait. For now, we'd keep the evidence in our back pocket. Meanwhile, Erica wasn't letting up. She continued to weaponize the restraining order, claiming I was violating it even when I was miles away. She also started dragging my family into the mess, spreading rumors about them to anyone who would listen. It felt like I was fighting a war on multiple fronts, and the stress was starting to take its toll. Mark noticed the change in me one evening as we sat watching a game. "You've gotta take care of yourself, man," he said, handing me a beer. "This fight's not worth losing your sanity over." "I know," I said, though the words felt hollow. A week later, everything came to a head. I was at Jack's office, going over the latest developments, when my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number, but something told me to answer. "Hello?" "Luke Carter," a deep, menacing voice said. "Who's asking?" "You know who we are, you bastard. We're the husbands of those 2 cheating wives you've been involved with." Before I could respond, the line went dead. Jack looked up from his desk. "What's wrong?" I relayed the conversation to him, and his expression darkened. "This could be Adrian stirring the pot. He's trying to rattle you." That night, I decided to go out to clear my head. I found myself at a quiet bar on the edge of town, nursing a drink and trying to forget the chaos for a while. But peace wasn't in the cards. 2 burly men entered the bar and headed straight for me. Before I could react, one of them grabbed my shoulder and spun me around. "You know who we are, you bastard," one of them growled. "We're the husbands of those 2 cheating wives you've been involved with." "I have no idea what you're talking about," I said, standing my ground. But they weren't interested in explanations. One of them swung a fist at me, and I barely dodged in time. The other lunged, but I caught him with a punch to the jaw that sent him stumbling back. The bar erupted into chaos as patrons scrambled to get out of the way. I managed to hold my own, but the fight left me shaken. As I left the bar, bloodied and bruised, one thought kept running through my mind. I limped back to Mark's house after the bar fight, my ribs aching and my mind racing. The attack wasn't random, someone was orchestrating this chaos. It had Adrian's fingerprints all over it. I realized I wasn't just fighting a messy divorce anymore, I was battling an enemy who thrived on manipulation and deceit. The next morning, I called Rachel and filled her in on the attack. She promised to dig deeper into Adrian's connections. Meanwhile, Jack was already preparing to file an official report, ensuring the restraining order Erica had filed wouldn't be weaponized further. "This has gone beyond personal drama," Jack said. "Adrian's playing dirty, and if we don't outmaneuver him, he'll keep escalating." 2 days later, Rachel delivered a bombshell. She'd uncovered a connection between Adrian and the 2 men who attacked me. They were on his payroll, working as security consultants for one of his companies. "This is exactly what we need," Jack said when I told him. "We can tie Adrian directly to the assault. It'll not only discredit him but also expose him as a threat in court." I couldn't hide the satisfaction in my voice. "Let's do it." In the meantime, Erica's carefully crafted house of lies was starting to crumble. Rachel had been feeding me updates about Adrian and Samantha, and word of their affair had finally reached Erica. I found out through a mutual friend that Erica had confronted Adrian in a public meltdown at a high-end restaurant. Witnesses said she'd thrown a glass of wine in his face before storming out. It was poetic justice, but I didn't feel triumphant, just relieved. Adrian had used Erica, just as she'd used me. Now, they were both reaping what they'd sown. When the court date finally arrived, I was ready. Jack presented the hotel footage, Rachel's reports, and evidence linking Adrian to the bar attack. Erica's lawyer tried to spin the narrative, but the judge wasn't buying it. By the end of the hearing, Erica's claims of emotional abuse had been dismissed. The restraining order was lifted, and Adrian's involvement in the assault was under investigation. As I walked out of the courtroom, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I could see a path forward. A week later, I met Erica for what would be our final conversation. She was visibly shaken, the confident facade she'd maintained for so long finally cracking. "I didn't want it to end like this," she said, her voice trembling. "Really?" I replied, my tone even. "Because it seems like you went out of your way to burn every bridge between us." She didn't have an answer for that. Instead, she muttered something about starting over, as if she could erase everything she'd done. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said before walking away. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. The divorce settlement was finalized, and I managed to keep most of what mattered: my home, my reputation, and my dignity. Erica faded into the background, while Adrian faced mounting legal troubles that eventually consumed him. Mark and I celebrated with a quiet night at home, a few beers, and a simple toast. "To freedom," he said, raising his bottle. "To new beginnings," I replied. Looking back, I realized the experience had taught me more than I ever wanted to know about betrayal, resilience, and the strength it takes to rebuild. If I had one piece of advice for anyone in a similar situation, it would be this: don't let someone else's lies define you. Stand your ground, fight for the truth, and never lose sight of who you are. Because in the end, the truth has a way of coming out, and when it does, it's worth every battle scar.
I wasn't snooping. That's the part that still makes my skin crawl. Because I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't suspicious. I trusted her. We were in the car, parked outside the grocery store, and she ran in to grab oat milk or some other nonsense she claimed she couldn't live without. Her phone buzzed twice, sitting right there in the cup holder, unlocked. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. The screen lit up with a message from someone named Blake. I didn't know a Blake. "I'll pick you up in 15 minutes. Get rid of that loser today, and I'll move into your house. I'll be a father to your kids." I felt like I got sucker punched in the stomach. My lungs stopped working. I read it again. And again. The words didn't change. Get rid of that loser today. That loser was me. She came back to the car like nothing happened. Tossed the oat milk into the back seat. Kissed me on the cheek. I could feel my own skin crawl away from her. She smelled like betrayal and expensive perfume. I turned to her slowly. Calm. Controlled. My hand gripped her phone like a loaded weapon. I showed her the screen. Her face drained of color like she'd seen a ghost. Except the ghost was her husband, still breathing beside her. "What the hell is this?" I asked, voice shaking from the pressure inside my chest. My knuckles went white around her phone. She froze. Blinked. Lips parted. No words came out. She reached for the phone. Too late. I opened the message. My thumbs flew across the screen. "Yes, baby, I'll be waiting for you." I looked her dead in the eyes and smiled. Not because I found it funny, but because something in me snapped. That cold, cruel smile was the only thing keeping me from exploding. "Let's go," I said. "Where?" she muttered. I didn't answer. Just drove. She didn't dare ask again. 10 minutes later, I pulled up to her parents' house. Her mom came out, waving. I didn't even look at her. I got out, opened the passenger door, and said, "Get out." "Wait, Nick, please. Get out." Her mother started walking toward us, confused. "Is everything okay, sweetheart?" "No, ma'am," I said without looking at either of them. "Your daughter's got a new man now. She's moving in with him. Shouldn't be your problem anymore." The look on her mom's face was somewhere between horror and total confusion. Good. Let them wonder. Let them rot with the suspense. I got in the car and drove off without another word. I parked 2 blocks away from our house. Sat in the dark. Waited. Watched. 10 minutes passed. 15. Then I saw him. A silver Mustang pulled up to my driveway. Some pumped-up clown with a fade and sunglasses at night stepped out, phone in hand, grinning. Blake. He was about to ring the doorbell. I got out of my car and walked across the street. No, stormed across it. My footsteps were the thunder before the lightning. He turned just as I reached him. "You Blake?" I asked. He smiled. "Yeah, and you must be." My fist connected with his jaw so hard, I felt the bones crunch. He stumbled back into the car. I didn't stop. Not once. I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the hood. Once. Twice. You want to be a father to my kids? I roared. His face twisted in terror. He raised his arms, trying to block my blows. He wasn't ready for this. They never are. I didn't know she was married, he cried out, bleeding from the nose now. Bullsh *T. I hissed, smashing his phone to pieces on the pavement. You were picking her up to move in. She told you I was the loser? You have no idea what kind of storm you just walked into. By the time I was done, he was coughing blood and begging me not to call the cops. I didn't need to. I had bigger plans. This was only the start. I walked back to my car, fists throbbing, adrenaline in my throat. My heart wasn't racing. It was marching like a war drum. She thought she could replace me. She thought she could erase me from my own life. But now, I was in control, and they had no idea what I had planned next. I didn't go home that night. I drove for hours, aimlessly, just to keep my hands from doing something I'd regret. Something worse than breaking Blake's pretty boy face. My fists still ached, but not as much as the hollow space growing in my chest. It wasn't pain anymore. It was something colder. Something uglier. I parked at a gas station just outside the city and stared at my reflection in the mirror above the sink in the restroom. My eyes were bloodshot, cheeks flushed with rage. I looked like a man who had just buried a part of himself. Because I had. Madison. My wife. My wife. She was supposed to be my person. The one who stood beside me when I was broke, when I got laid off, when I started rebuilding. We'd planned to grow old together. And now she was calling me a loser and texting some dollar store Romeo about raising my kids. I laughed. Bitter. Sharp. She wanted a new life. Fine. But not without consequences. When I finally pulled into our driveway at sunrise, the Mustang was gone. No blood. No trace of the mess I made. Good. Let the coward run. I opened the door and stepped into the silence of our home. It used to feel warm. Now it felt like a stage. Fake. The pictures on the wall mocked me. Our wedding in Maui, our kids' first birthday, family Christmas photos. All lies now. All tainted by the filth she smeared across our lives. I sat down at the dining table, hands folded. My boys, Ethan and Caleb, would be up soon. I needed to fake a smile. For them. Just until I figured out what came next. By 7 a.m., their tiny footsteps padded down the hallway. Caleb climbed into my lap without a word, still half asleep. Ethan rubbed his eyes, dragging his stuffed bear behind him. Where's Mommy? He asked. Visiting Grandma, I said. Lie number 1. My turn now. I dropped them off at school like always. Pretended to be normal. Pretended like my world wasn't cracked down the middle. As soon as I got back in the car, I called a lawyer. Divorce? The woman asked. Not yet, I replied. I need advice. Strategy. And I need to make sure she doesn't get the house. Or the kids. We set up a meeting for that afternoon. But first, I had to collect some evidence. I went back home and did what I should have done a long time ago. Searched her drawers, her closet, her laptop. I wasn't proud of it, but pride was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. And then I found it. A burner phone. Hidden in a box of tampons, buried behind the bathroom cabinet. The messages inside were worse than I expected. Months of filth. Plans. Photos. Conversations between her and Blake that made my stomach churn. They weren't just fooling around. They were building a new life behind my back. You'll never have to work again, he wrote. I can't wait to wake up next to you and never see Nick's pathetic face again, she replied. Pathetic. That word burned deeper than any punch. She wasn't just cheating. She was erasing me, replacing me, smiling in my face while stabbing me in the back with 1,000 little cuts. But I wasn't bleeding anymore. I was planning. And Madison, sweet, lying Madison, had no idea the storm was just beginning. By the time Madison finally came back home 2 days later, I was ready. She walked in like nothing had happened, wearing her fake little smile, holding a bag of groceries, humming some Go Doffel Pop song like she hadn't tried to torch our entire life and run off with another man. The audacity of it made me sick. I watched her from the kitchen, arms crossed, leaning against the counter. She noticed the silence, the weight of it. Her smile faltered. Hey, she said slowly. Everything okay? I didn't answer, just stared. She blinked. Why are you looking at me like that? You really gonna pretend? I asked. Her mouth opened, then closed again. That fake innocence she wore so well cracked for a moment. Pretend what? I pulled the burner phone from my pocket and tossed it onto the kitchen table. It landed with a soft thud, but it sounded like a bomb to both of us. Her face drained of color. Go ahead, I said. Unlock it. She didn't move. Unlock the phone. I don't know what that is, she whispered. I laughed. You must think I'm an idiot. You hid it in the tampon box. Real classy. Still, she didn't speak. Didn't move. So I opened it myself. Scrolled through the messages. Read a few out loud. Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. Nick's still clueless. That one's cute. Her lips trembled. Not with guilt, no. With rage. Like I was the one who betrayed her. She had the nerve to look angry. You went through my stuff? She finally snapped. I slammed my hand down on the table, so hard the salt shaker jumped. You lied to me for months. I shouted. And that's what you're mad about? That I found the truth. She flinched, but stood her ground. That's who she was. A woman who could look you in the eye while destroying you and still act like the victim. I wasn't happy, she said. No **T. Affairs usually come with that excuse. I didn't plan it, she whispered. It just happened. Right? I said, stepping closer. Like falling into traffic. Or tripping into another man's bed. It was different with him. That one hit hard. Deeper than I expected. So you love him? Silence. I nodded. Got it. She finally looked away. You were so focused on work, on bills, on being responsible. I needed more. I almost laughed again. So being a husband and father wasn't enough? Being the guy who paid for the car, the house, the *King oat milk wasn't romantic enough for you. I felt invisible, she whispered, tears in her eyes now. You were invisible, I said. Because the person I married, Madison, the woman who smiled on our wedding day, that person disappeared a long time ago. She turned away, wiping at her face like it mattered now. Like her tears could wash away what she'd done. So what now, she asked. You want a divorce? I stared at her, cold and quiet. No, I said. Not yet. Her brows furrowed. Then what? I want you to stay right here. Sleep in the guest room. Tell the kids we're just going through a rough patch. Why? She asked, her voice cracking. I leaned in, close enough to whisper. Because I want you to feel it, Madison. The weight of every lie. Every smile you faked. Every time you let him touch you and came home to me. I want you to sit in this house and choke on the guilt. I want you to watch everything fall apart, slowly. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I turned and walked away. War had been declared, and I had no plans of surrender. The days that followed felt like living in a house made of glass, beautiful on the outside, but fragile and cold inside. Madison stayed, just like I told her. But nothing was normal. Not anymore. She moved into the guest room and tried to act like everything was fine for the kids. She'd smile at breakfast, ask about their homework, kiss their foreheads like she was still the same woman. But I could see it, the cracks forming behind her fake expressions. The twitch in her eye when I didn't respond to her good morning. The flinch when I called her by her full name instead of babe. I wanted her to feel it all. I wasn't silent though. No, silence would have been a gift. I was polite, calm, deadly. I thanked her when she passed the salt, complimented her lasagna with a cold nod, even helped her fold the laundry. But every time I did, I'd drop a little grenade in the middle of our conversations. Blake likes white wine, right? This sweater, wasn't this what you wore the night you said you were with Sarah? Funny, our wedding vows talked about loyalty. She never answered, just blinked, lips tight, eyes moist. She was unraveling, slowly, and I loved every second of it. One night, I heard her crying through the guest room door. The sobs weren't loud, but they were real. Maybe she thought I'd come in and comfort her. Maybe she thought I'd still be the guy who fixed things. But that guy was gone. I spent my nights at the gym, working off the rage, or sitting in my truck, staring at the messages on her burner phone. I memorized every sentence she wrote him. I needed to, because those words kept me sharp, focused, reminded me that her tears were not repentance. They were panic, fear of being exposed, fear of losing the safety net. I started documenting everything. Screenshots, photos, financial records. I wasn't going to be the guy who got screwed in court while the woman who gutted our marriage walked away with the house and half my future. Then came the letter. It was a cheap envelope, slid under the front door. No stamp, no name. Inside was a single photograph. Blake, in front of our local daycare, holding a little stuffed bear. Smiling. I stared at the picture for a full minute. He was trying to get to my kids. I rushed inside, heart pounding, and checked every room. The boys were safe. Madison was upstairs, asleep. But that image burned into my skull. The next morning, I waited until the kids were at school, then dropped the photo on the kitchen table while she poured coffee. "What the hell is this?" I asked. Her hand trembled as she picked it up. I don't know. Don't lie, I snapped. "I didn't tell him to go there. I swear," she said, eyes wide. I stood up so fast the chair screeched backward. "If he ever shows up near my kids again, I'll make what happened last time look like a hug." She flinched. "I'll tell him to stay away. Please, Nick." I leaned in, voice low. "You will tell him. And if he doesn't listen, I'll bury him." She nodded, shaking. I walked away before I said something I couldn't take back. But I knew then, this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about protection. It was about pride. It was about finishing what she started on my terms. The problem with betrayal is that it doesn't end where you think it will. You catch the lie, you confront it, you bleed, but it keeps echoing. Every look, every breath, every time you walk into a room they used to smile in, and now you see ghosts. I wasn't done. Not even close. After that picture of Blake at the daycare, I took things to another level. No more passive waiting. I wanted to know everything. Where he worked, where he lived, who he lived with, what time he brushed his damn teeth. So I hired someone. A guy named Jax. Old friend from high school who took a darker path. He owed me. Knew how to dig. Knew how to stay invisible. "I want everything on this guy," I told him. "Where he sleeps, who he talks to, what skeletons are in his closet. I want leverage." "You think he's dangerous?" Jax asked. "He's either stupid or insane," I replied. "He thought he could replace me." Jax smirked. "This might be fun." Within 2 days, I had a folder thicker than a high school yearbook. Blake was in debt. Deep. Credit cards maxed out. 2 failed businesses. 1 ex-girlfriend who filed a restraining order back in 2019. And guess what else? He didn't even own that Mustang. Leased it under a fake LLC. The guy was a walking lie. The kind Madison used to roll her eyes at. Now she was rolling around in bed with him. I didn't show her the file. Not yet. That was for later. For the moment she tried to play the victim, or worse, take the kids. But something shifted in her before I even had to use it. She started cooking more. Asking how my day was. Cleaning the house like she was trying to erase her scent from every surface. A few times, she even stood in the doorway of the bedroom, watching me while I pretended not to notice. "I made your favorite," she said one night, holding out a plate of grilled salmon and asparagus. "I'm not hungry," I replied without looking up. "Nick," she whispered. "Please." "What?" I said, locking eyes with her. "You think dinner is going to fix this? You think asparagus is going to make me forget that you were planning a new life while sleeping in my bed?" Tears welled up again. Her favorite trick. But this time, she didn't turn away. "I made a mistake." "No," I said, standing. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. You built a double life. That takes time. That takes effort." She tried to speak again, but I walked past her, straight to the garage. I needed space. Air. Anything but her. As I sat in my car, staring at the wall, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Unknown, we need to talk. Madison isn't who you think she is. Neither is Blake." My heart froze. I stared at the screen, thumbs hovering. Typed, "Who is this?" "Unknown, let's just say I've been where you are. Meet me tomorrow, 9 p.m. Parking lot behind Seeger's Hardware." I read the message 3 times. My first thought? Trap. But my gut said otherwise. The tone, the timing, the sudden cold breath on the back of my neck. Something felt real. Like someone had just thrown a match into a forest I thought I already burned down. And so I made my choice. Tomorrow night, I'd walk into the dark. I needed to know how deep this hole really went. Because I was starting to realize. Madison wasn't just a liar. She might be something much worse. The night was thick with humidity and silence. Even the crickets kept their mouths shut as I pulled into the lot behind Seeger's Hardware. A single flickering street lamp buzzed above, casting long, broken shadows across the cracked asphalt. 9 p.m. sharp. I killed the engine and sat there for a second, hand on the glove box where my old Beretta was tucked. I wasn't stupid. You don't walk blind into mystery texts without some form of insurance. Then I saw him. A man stepped out of the shadows near the dumpster, tall, lean, wearing a hoodie and a Red Sox cap pulled low over his face. His walk was slow, deliberate, like he'd done this before. I opened my door, but stayed behind it. "You the one texting me?" I asked, voice calm cold. He nodded. Name's Carter. Why the hell are you contacting me? He looked around, then stepped closer, just into the light. I finally saw his face, mid-30s, pale, tired eyes. A man who hadn't slept well in years. I was married to her, he said. I stared at him. To Madison? He shook his head. No. To Blake's ex. Her name was Lacey. Madison and her? Best friends in college. Soul-sucker twins. That hit hard. Harder than I expected. Madison never mentioned a Lacey. Of course not. Because Lacey knew things. Saw things. She caught Blake cheating on her with 2 different women. One of them was Madison. The air felt colder suddenly. She was helping him run scams, Carter continued. Fake business fronts. Real estate fraud. Madison posed as a client once to help secure a bogus investment loan. She's not just cheating on you, Nick. She's partnering with him. You're lying, I said, but my voice lacked the weight. I didn't believe myself anymore. He reached into his jacket and tossed a flash drive onto the hood of my car. Watch what's on there. Phone calls, emails, bank transfers. I've been collecting it all for 3 years. Blake and Madison aren't in love. They're building a way out. And they plan to leave you with nothing. My hands were shaking now, fists clenched against the hood. Why are you giving me this? Because I lost everything, he said, eyes dark. My house, my kids, my sanity. I let them get away with it. You still have a chance to stop it. The man turned and walked away, vanishing into the shadows like he never existed. I didn't go home. I drove to a diner, ordered a black coffee, and sat in a booth with my laptop, staring at the flash drive like it was radioactive. My heart pounded as I plugged it in. Folders popped up, labeled by dates, names, transactions. And then, I saw it. A video file, timestamped 3 weeks ago. The grainy footage showed Madison sitting across from Blake in what looked like a cheap hotel room. Her hair was pulled back. She was smiling. I'll distract Nick, she said. You just make sure the paperwork goes through before the 15th. Once he signs it, he won't even know the money's gone until it's too late. Blake laughed. You're evil, Mads. She leaned over the table and kissed him. Only for you. I slammed the laptop shut, my jaw locked so tight I could taste metal. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a setup. A long, calculated scam wrapped in the illusion of love. And now? Now it was personal. They wanted a clean escape. But I was going to be the fire they never saw coming. By the time I walked back into the house, I wasn't the same man who left it. Something had cracked. Or maybe finally clicked. The sadness, the heartbreak, the raw humiliation, they were still there, buried somewhere deep. But now, they were buried under something sharper. Strategy, resolve, rage, iced over and calculated. Madison was sitting on the couch, pretending to read a book. She looked up, surprised I was home this early, or home at all. You're back, she said gently. Too gently. I am, I replied, hanging my keys on the hook. Just needed to clear my head. She studied my face, looking for something. Guilt maybe. Weakness. Regret. But she didn't find it. Because it wasn't there anymore. I ordered Thai, she offered. Your favorite. Panang curry. I nodded. Great. Thanks. That night, I played along. Ate the curry. Watched part of a movie with her and the boys. Laughed at a stupid cartoon joke with Caleb. I was calm. Measured. But under the surface, I was lining up dominoes. By midnight, when the house was quiet, I moved like a ghost through the rooms. I snuck into the guest room, opened her purse, found her phone. Still no passcode. She was too confident. Or too stupid. I forwarded every email I found to myself. Screenshots of her messages with Blake. Calendar entries. Bank notifications. One message even said, once he signs the equity papers, he'll be out of the picture. The next morning, I made a call. Carter, it's me. Did you watch everything? All of it. You ready? Oh, I'm past ready. We met again, this time in daylight, in a public place, with witnesses all around. Carter handed me 2 more documents. One was an affidavit from Lacey, detailing the scams, the fraud, and Madison's role in helping Blake launder money. The second was a notarized statement from an ex-employee of Blake's fake LLC. I was assembling a weapon. And next, I needed an audience. I booked a meeting with my lawyer. Told him everything. Showed him the videos, the screenshots, the financials. He sat back, stunned. You realize if you play this right, he said, she won't just lose custody. She might get criminal charges. I nodded. Good. Let her rot. Then came the hard part. I had to play nice. For a few more days. Pretend like things were slowly improving. Madison smiled more. Started wearing makeup again. I saw her checking herself in the mirror, probably thinking she was winning me back. She had no clue she was walking into her own funeral. Friday morning, I got the alert. Blake had wired $40,000 into one of the joint business accounts Madison and I shared. One she thought I never looked at. But I'd flagged it, traced it, knew exactly where the money came from and where she intended to move it next. I waited until dinner. We were all at the table, me, her, and the kids. Chicken parm. The good plates. She even lit candles. Maybe she thought she was rebuilding us. I let the kids finish eating and excused them to go play. Then I dropped the bomb. You should tell the boys now, I said, pushing my plate away. She blinked. Tell them what? That you're leaving. For good. Her fork clinked against her plate. What are you talking about? I've seen the videos. The fake accounts. The money you helped him steal. The lies. The plan. The hotel meetings. I know everything, Madison. Her face went white. Nick. No. No more lies. No more fake tears. No more dinners with poison underneath. She stood up fast. You have no proof. I slid the flash drive across the table. Her hand froze before touching it. Carter says hi, I added. She sat down hard. And for the first time, she looked afraid. She stared at the flash drive like it was a ticking bomb. Her fingers hovered over it, but she didn't touch it. Couldn't. Carter, she whispered, eyes wide. You talked to Carter? I leaned back in my chair, arms folded. Yeah, he had a lot to say, and a lot of receipts. Madison tried to collect herself, pressing a trembling hand to her temple like she could massage the lies back into order. I could almost see the gears turning, trying to form her next move. But the queen was cornered, and she knew it. You're making a huge mistake, she said finally, voice low, shaky. Am I? You think this is going to help the kids? You think dragging their mother through hell will make you the good guy? I slammed my palm against the table. Don't. You. Dare. Bring the kids into this. She jumped at the sound. You were going to leave them, I hissed. Trade your own sons for a guy who can't keep a business alive for 6 months. You were ready to hand their future to a con man. So don't you dare pull the mother card now. Her face hardened. The tears dried up instantly. That mask she wore so well, the sweet wife disguise, gone. What was left was the real Madison. Cold. Vicious. Cornered. So what, she spat. You want revenge? You think that's noble? You think the judge is going to care about your little show? I smiled. I don't need a show, I said. I've got evidence. I've got testimony. And I've got time. Every day you sit in this house, you're breathing air I let you breathe. But that ends tomorrow. You can't kick me out of my own home. It's my home, I growled. Paid for with my money. In my name. And as of this morning, there's a restraining order filed with the court pending your response. You'll be out by the end of the week. Her face twisted in rage. You bastard. I stood up, grabbed the flash drive off the table, and started walking away. Where are you going? She shouted after me. To finish what you started, I said without looking back. 3 days later, Madison was gone. I watched from the living room window as she packed the last of her designer bags into the back of her sister's car. No tears. No goodbye. Just one final, seething glance through the window, as if I was the villain in her story. I smiled and waved. A week after that, the judge granted me full temporary custody. Madison's visitation was suspended until the fraud investigation concluded. The DA's office had opened a case on Blake. Turns out, Carter's evidence stretched deeper than either of us expected. Bank fraud, identity theft, mail fraud. Blake was looking at real time. As for Madison, well, her face showed up on the local news once the investigation reached public record. I saved the clip. She went from neighborhood darling to social pariah overnight. Some nights, I still sit on the porch and try to understand it. How the woman I married became a ghost wrapped in perfume and secrets. How she smiled while lying. How she kissed me with a mouth that whispered betrayal behind my back. But then Ethan runs up, showing me his school project. Or Caleb brings me a crayon drawing of the three of us standing under the sun. And I remember what matters. They tried to erase me. But I didn't just survive. I won. So here's my advice to anyone out there. If you ever find a message like the one I did, don't just confront it. Instead of spending our 6th anniversary with me, my wife was at a candlelit dinner with a 23-year-old she'd met at the gym. She texted me, still at the office, babe. Big project? Love you. But I already knew where she was, Because I was parked outside the restaurant, watching them. Her head tilted back in laughter, her hand brushing his across the table. She looked alive, like the woman I married 6 years ago. Only this time, she wasn't laughing with me. I didn't crash the dinner. I didn't call her out. I didn't even text back. I just drove away. Cold. Empty. I drove for hours that night. No music. Just my fingers gripping the wheel, the image of her hand on his burned into my eyes. She was wearing the dress I bought her. The heels I paid for. The necklace she said was too special to wear often. She wore it for him. At 2:43 a.m., my phone buzzed. Where are you? I'm home. You okay? At 2:44 a.m., another. Can't sleep. Call me. I turned the phone over, screen down on the seat beside me. Let her sweat. Let her panic. Let her lie awake wondering where I was for a change. By 7 a.m., I walked through the front door like I'd just gone for coffee. She was on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, phone in her hand, eyes bloodshot. Jake, where the hell were you? She asked, standing up like she had the right. Out, I said calmly. I looked her straight in the eyes and added, working. She blinked. Her throat bobbed. She tried to smile like nothing happened. I didn't hear from you last night. You had me scared. Oh, did I? I set my keys on the counter, next to a vase of half-wilted roses, our anniversary flowers, still untouched in their delivery box. She glanced at them and bit her lip. About last night. Here it comes. I didn't want to ruin our day, so I figured we could celebrate this weekend instead. Work was just insane. You know how it gets. My boss dumped a ton of files on my lap and I raised my hand. Don't. She froze. I saw you, I said. Her face turned to stone. Saw me. Le Petit Roux. Table by the window. Fancy steak. Expensive wine. Guy with the jawline of a TikTok thirst trap. I saw you. Her silence was loud. A beat passed. Then she laughed. Laughed. Oh, that, she scoffed. You're seriously jealous of a dinner meeting? With a guy who looks like he sells protein powder shirtless? God, Jake. You always twist things. That was not a date. He's just someone I'm mentoring. I tilted my head. Do you usually mentor guys half naked in your DMs? She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. You went through my phone? No, I said. I saw it on his. Her face drained of color. There it was. The first crack. Jake, whatever you think this is. It's exactly what I think it is, I interrupted. And more. She crossed her arms and went on the offensive. Classic move. So what, now you're spying on me? Following me like some creep? On our anniversary, Sarah. She rolled her eyes. Jesus, get over it. One night. I was tired of walking on eggshells with you. Eggshells? I paid the mortgage. Took her parents on vacation. Supported her through every one of her career switches. I even covered the down payment on her stupid yoga studio that failed in 6 months. I hope he was worth it, I said quietly. She didn't answer. Just stared, like this was suddenly my fault. That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't guilt. This was who she really was. She didn't regret the dinner. She regretted getting caught. So I did what she didn't expect. I smiled. Good news, Sarah, I said, grabbing my jacket. I'm giving you the freedom you've been sneaking out for. And I walked out. Not forever. Not yet. But enough to flip the game. By noon, her call started. By 4 p.m., she was at my office. By 8 p.m., she was crying into voicemails, apologizing, blaming stress, saying she felt misunderstood. But it was already too late. Because that morning, something in me snapped, and I wasn't the same man she married anymore. The next morning, I didn't go home. Instead, I checked into a cheap but clean motel on the edge of town. The kind of place with coffee that tastes like regret and carpets that haven't seen a vacuum since the 90s. But I wasn't there for comfort. I needed clarity. Space. Silence. No scent of her shampoo on the pillows. No fake apologies. No pretending. Sarah blew up my phone all day. Calls. Voicemails. Texts. Jake, we need to talk. You're blowing this out of proportion. You're being dramatic. It was just dinner. Don't throw everything away over a misunderstanding. I didn't respond. Around 2 p.m., she sent me a photo. Us on our honeymoon. Sunset. Sand. Smiles. The same old manipulation. She thought nostalgia would pull me back like a leash. But it only made me remember how far we'd fallen. How far she dragged us. Later that evening, I finally replied. Just one word. Why? She answered fast. Because I was lonely. You were always working. You stopped paying attention to me. There it was. The classic villain's excuse. Blame the victim. Rewrite the story. Pretend the affair was some tragic cry for help. But I wasn't buying it. She wasn't lonely when she maxed out my card on designer bags. Or when she laughed with her friends over brunch while I worked weekends to cover her lifestyle. That night, I logged into our shared cloud. She forgot it was still synced. Photos. Screenshots. Messages. She'd been seeing him for 3 months. Not mentoring. Not just dinner. Photos of her in lingerie I'd never seen, sent to him with captions like "Can't wait for tonight, kiss Mark," and "He has no idea." Dozens of messages where she called me boring, predictable, safe, said she was suffocating in this marriage, that she needed someone who makes her feel alive. She called me her husband like I was some babysitter she couldn't wait to escape. I didn't cry. Not then. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. I had given this woman everything, and she repaid me with betrayal so rehearsed, so cold, it could have won awards. She wasn't sorry. She was sorry she got caught. And the part that cut the deepest? She didn't even try to delete it. Like I wasn't a threat. Like I wasn't even worth hiding it from. She thought I'd always be the doormat. The provider. The dependable fool who'd forgive anything because I loved her too much to walk. But love has a breaking point. And she just found mine. 2 days passed before I decided to go back to the house. Not because I missed her. Not because I forgave her. But because I needed to look her in the eye and see if there was even a flicker of remorse. When I walked through the front door, Sarah was sitting on the couch like she'd rehearsed the scene 100 times. Hair perfect. Soft lighting. She even lit a damn candle. Manipulative to the core, trying to set a mood like this was a rom-com and not a war zone. "You finally came back," she said, rising slowly, voice trembling just enough to seem sincere. I didn't answer. I dropped a manila envelope onto the coffee table. Her phone records. The screenshots. Hotel bookings. Photos. All of it. Her eyes flicked down. Her mouth opened. Then closed. "I can explain," she muttered. "No, you really can't," I replied, my voice flat. "It wasn't serious. I didn't plan for it to go that far," she whispered. "You called him your real partner in one message," I snapped. "You said you felt alive with him. That you were suffocating with me. That I was boring. Safe." She looked like she'd been slapped. And yet, no tears. No apology. Instead, she crossed her arms and said, "You were boring, Jake. You used to be exciting. Spontaneous. Now you're just robotic. Everything's about bills and work and schedules." I almost laughed again. "You mean everything was about making sure you could live the life you wanted? The apartment, the vacations, your failed studio. I worked so you didn't have to worry. And I never asked for that," she snapped back, voice sharp now. The fake vulnerability vanished. "Oh no? You didn't ask for the Mercedes either, right? Or the spa membership? Or your dad's surgery I paid for when you didn't have $1 to your name?" Silence. Then she said the one thing that burned worse than all the rest. "I just needed something more. Something real. More than me?" I stepped back like she'd hit me. She could have begged. She could have cried. She could have lied a little better. But no, she stood there, arms crossed, like I was the one who ruined it all. "I'm done," I said quietly. "You don't get to rewrite history. You don't get to act like I failed you when you stabbed me in the back. You're really walking away over this?" She scoffed, defensive now. "It was one mistake." "One mistake?" "It was dozens. Over months. And not once did you stop. Not once did you come clean." She turned away, like I wasn't worth looking at. "Maybe you're just not man enough to handle a real woman." And that's when I knew she was gone, had been for a long time. I didn't say another word. I grabbed my bag and walked out. Because the next part wasn't about her anymore. It was about reclaiming whatever pieces of me she hadn't already destroyed. After the confrontation, something inside me snapped, but not the way I expected. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was empty. Like I'd poured every ounce of love, patience, and forgiveness into her, and now there was nothing left. Just a man walking away from a fire he didn't start, watching it burn everything he built without trying to save a thing. I stayed with my buddy Ethan for a few nights. He didn't ask questions. Just handed me a beer, turned on the game, and let me sit in silence. That kind of quiet support meant more than all the fake "I love yous" Sarah had whispered in the last year. But even silence couldn't stop the storm from brewing behind the scenes. By the end of the week, Sarah's tone had changed. She wasn't defensive anymore. She was desperate. Text after text. "Jake, Please come home. We can fix this. He doesn't mean anything to me. It was just a stupid phase. I ignored all of them. Then came the guilt messages. You abandoned me. You said you'd never give up on us. What kind of man just walks away from his wife? The kind of man you betrayed, I thought. But the real storm came when I filed for divorce. She went ballistic. Called my office. Showed up crying in the parking lot. Told mutual friends I was overreacting and throwing our marriage away. One night, Ethan and I came back from the gym and found her sitting on the steps of his house like some tragic movie scene. Tears. Mascara running. A bottle of wine beside her. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she sobbed. You were supposed to fight for me. I stared at her, and for a moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. You don't get to cheat and then demand loyalty, I said. She reached out to touch my hand. I pulled away. He was nothing, Jake. He was just there. You were always working, always distant. I needed someone. You needed someone to stroke your ego, I shot back. Not someone to love you. Because you had that, and you spat on it. She looked up at me, and something cold flickered in her eyes, like she realized I was really gone this time. You'll regret this, she whispered. No, I said. I regret not leaving sooner. I turned and walked inside, leaving her on the porch, sobbing into the night. That was the first time in months I felt something close to peace. The fire was still burning behind me, but I was already walking towards something better. A life without her. The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. Not because I was broken, but because, for the first time in years, I looked calm. There were no bags under my eyes from late-night fights. No fake smiles to keep a toxic peace. Just me. Clear-eyed. Focused. Free. The lawyer I hired didn't waste time. Sarah, of course, tried to delay the paperwork. Claimed she wasn't emotionally ready for divorce. But when I reminded her she was emotionally ready to sleep with a 23-year-old and lie about it for months, the delays stopped. Meanwhile, she ramped up the manipulation. She showed up at my work again, this time in tears. She waited in the lobby until I came out. Jake, please, we had 6 years. Doesn't that mean anything to you? I looked at her and said, yeah, it means I wasted 6 years on the wrong person. She flinched, like she hadn't expected me to be this cold. But the truth is she created this version of me. She thought I'd come crawling back eventually. She thought she had time to twist the narrative, make me doubt myself, spin her betrayal into a temporary lapse in judgment. But what she didn't realize was that every lie she told chipped away at the man who once loved her. And what remained? Someone she couldn't manipulate anymore. Then came the messages from mutual friends. Sarah's been a wreck. She's saying you didn't give her a chance to explain. You should talk to her. Just hear her out. Man, she said you were always cold. Controlling. Maybe there's more to this. Classic. She'd already started rewriting history. Turning herself into the victim. Painting me as the emotionally distant husband who pushed her away. That's what they do, people like her. They cheat, they lie, and when the truth hits too hard, they create a version of reality where they were forced into betrayal. Where it was never their fault. But I didn't bite. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain. Because anyone who really knew me, anyone who mattered, already knew the truth. The ones who doubted? They could go with her. I wasn't here to fix their illusions. I was here to rebuild me. One night, I walked into my old place to grab some of my remaining things, and I found Sarah sitting on the floor of the bedroom, holding a box of our photos. I miss you, she whispered. I stood in the doorway, watching her. I don't miss who I became around you, I replied. She looked up slowly, eyes brimming with tears. And I realized, right then, she wasn't crying for me. She was crying because she lost control. Because her backup plan, the man she thought would always stay, was finally gone. A week after that encounter in our old bedroom, I got a message from someone unexpected, Travis. Yeah, him. The kid. The 23-year-old personal trainer turned homewrecker. The same guy Sarah chose over me. At first, I thought it was a prank, but the number checked out. Hey, man, I didn't know she was married. I swear. I laughed. It was almost sweet how naive he sounded. Like I'd buy that. But curiosity got the better of me. I responded, meet me at Brew 42. Tomorrow at 6. He showed. Tight t-shirt, backwards cap, still looking like the poster boy for protein shakes and bad decisions. But his confidence? Gone. He sat across from me, eyes down, tapping his leg like he was waiting for a punch that never came. She told me you were separated, he mumbled. Said you were controlling. That you had a temper. I stared at him, not saying a word. She said you didn't care about her anymore, that you were more in love with your business than your marriage. There it was. The script. Word for word. I almost wanted to applaud her commitment to the role. She lied to you, Travis. Just like she lied to me. He nodded slowly. I figured that out. After a while, it started to feel like I was her distraction, not her partner. She'd trash you, then turn around and cry because you weren't calling. She played us both, I said. I ended it last week. She lost it. Said I was a coward, that I used her. But man, I think she's just broken. I sipped my coffee and leaned in. She's not broken. She's calculating. And now that you're no longer useful, she's flipping the script again. He looked defeated. You're not going to. I mean, you're not going to come after me, are you? I'm not here to hurt you. You were just a pawn. But it gave me an idea. Later that night, I compiled everything: screenshots, messages, hotel bookings, and now Travis's own recorded confession. All legal. All admissible. All timed perfectly. I sent a package to Sarah's lawyer. It wasn't revenge. It was exposure. She tried to spin the divorce into my fault, claiming emotional neglect and emotional distress. But now, the truth was undeniable. Her web of lies collapsed under the weight of her own ego. A week later, I got a call from my attorney. She's backed off her claims. She wants to settle quietly now. Of course she did. Because the image she'd been polishing for months, perfect wife, misunderstood woman, was shattered. And this time, I didn't have to scream. I let the facts do the talking. She called once after the settlement. I let it ring. She left a voicemail. I hope you're happy. And for the first time since this all began. The day the divorce was finalized, I didn't throw a party. I didn't go out and get drunk. I didn't post anything online. I just drove to the ocean. There's a spot an hour out of town, high cliffs, rough wind, waves slamming into rocks like they've got something to prove. I used to take Sarah there when we first met. Back then, it felt romantic. Now it felt like freedom. I stood at the edge, hands in my jacket pockets, watching the water tear itself apart. And for the first time in what felt like years, my mind was quiet. No more second-guessing. No more lies. No more pretending. Sarah was gone. Not just from my house or my bank account, but from me. She no longer lived rent-free in my head. It wasn't easy getting to this point. There were nights I questioned everything. If I missed a sign, if I could have saved us, if I failed. But the truth is, some people don't break, they rot. Quietly. Slowly. From the inside out. And by the time you notice the smell, it's too late to fix it. Sarah didn't cheat because I lacked something. She cheated because she lacked everything that makes someone worthy of real love. Trust. Loyalty. Respect. And the thing is, she didn't just betray me. She betrayed herself. Traded a man who stood by her through thick and thin for some temporary thrill in a muscle tee. And what did she get? Silence. Isolation. A reputation. Most of her friends distanced themselves after the truth came out. Even her sister, who always had her back, called me to say, I didn't know she could be that cruel. Funny how fast the narrative changes once people stop buying your version of the story. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. Piece by piece. I moved into a new apartment. Started going to the gym again, not out of revenge, but because it felt good. I took trips alone. Learned to cook. Found peace in doing things for me. I even started dating again. Carefully. Not to fill a void, but to see what it felt like to connect without chaos. And I met someone. Her name's Lena. She doesn't know all the details, but she knows enough. Enough to understand why I flinch at lies. Why I watch people closely. Why I take my time. She's kind. Grounded. Real. Sometimes I catch myself smiling when she talks. Not because I'm trying to charm her, but because I can. Because I've healed enough to smile without faking it. It's not a fairy tale. It's better. It's honest. I once thought the worst thing that could happen to a man was losing the woman he loved. I was wrong. The worst thing is realizing she never really loved you, only what you could do for her. Your loyalty, your effort, your quiet sacrifices, all treated like background noise to her drama, her desires, her endless hunger for attention. But now, I don't look back with rage. I look back with clarity. Sarah wasn't the end of me. She was the end of a version of me I needed to bury. The people around me started noticing the change. My posture, the calm in my voice, the way I no longer jumped when my phone buzzed. No more pacing. No more waiting for the other shoe to drop. No more walking on glass just to keep a woman who wasn't worth keeping. A friend once asked, do you regret ever meeting her? For a long time, I wanted to say yes. But the truth is I don't. Because Sarah taught me the most valuable lesson of all. You can give someone the world, and if they don't value themselves, they'll still burn it to the ground. And when they do, you've got two choices. Stay and choke on the smoke. Walk through the fire and come out rebuilt. I chose the second. And here's what I've learned. For every person who betrays you, there's another who'll see you for what you are. Not what they can use, not what they can shape, but for who you truly are. Lena saw that. And more importantly, I saw that in myself. I stopped defining my worth by how much I could endure. I stopped accepting bare minimums dressed up as effort. I stopped thinking love was supposed to feel like a test I was always failing. So if you're reading this, whether you've been lied to, cheated on, or made to feel like you're not enough, listen to me carefully. You are not the villain in someone else's twisted story. You are not too much. You are not too little. You are not broken. You are just trying to love someone incapable of returning it. Let them go. Not for revenge. Not for pride. But for peace. I thought losing Sarah would destroy me. It didn't. It rebuilt me. And today, I stand stronger, smarter, and more at peace than I've ever been. I'm not her victim. I'm the man who walked away and never looked back. That moment? It carved a hole in my chest deeper than any battlefield ever could. I dropped my duffel bag on the porch like it weighed 1,000 pounds. My boots still covered in Afghan dust, dog tags clinking around my neck, heartbeat drumming like enemy fire. My kid, 8-year-old Ethan, stood in front of me with those big innocent eyes, clutching a toy car, as if he just told me we were out of milk. I knelt down, grabbed him by the shoulders, and asked again, slower, trying to make it make sense. Did you say she's getting married? Right now? To Nick? He nodded. At church. She said it's a fresh start. A fresh start. I didn't have time to cry. My fists were already clenched, and something inside me, something primal, had snapped. 2 years on foreign soil. 2 years dodging bullets, saving lives, dreaming of home, of her. Of the woman who promised to wait. Now she's in a damn wedding dress, smiling down the aisle, while I'm standing here like some ghost from a forgotten life. The church wasn't far. Maybe 5-6 blocks. I didn't take the car. I ran, my heart pounding harder with every step, thoughts spinning. Her smile, her lies, our wedding day flashing in my mind, and Nick, my best friend since high school. We went to war together, got drunk on rooftops, cried over our dead brothers. I told him everything about her, and he stabbed me right between the ribs. I reached St. Thomas's Chapel just in time. The bells were ringing. I yanked the heavy doors open so hard they slammed into the walls. Heads turned. Gasps erupted. Her parents, my parents, even my baby sister, everyone sat there frozen like I was a ghost. I saw her, Emily, standing at the altar, dressed in white, like some twisted joke, veil pushed back, bouquet in hand. Nick stood next to her, pale as hell. Emily's face dropped when she saw me. Oh my God, she whispered. That was her first reaction. Not joy, not guilt, just annoyance. Oh, my God. My voice echoed through the room like a gunshot. You cheating piece of garbage. Nick took a step forward, raising his hands like he was defusing a bomb. Bro. Don't you bro me. I charged at him, and before anyone could stop me, my fist connected with his smug, backstabbing jaw. He collapsed like a sack of trash, knocking over some stupid flower arrangement. Screams broke out. Her mom yelled. My mom gasped. My son clung to my sister's hand. Emily ran toward me, clawing at my chest. You're ruining everything, she screamed. Ruining? You ruined our whole damn life. You left us, she shrieked, spitting each word like venom. 2 years. No calls, no visits, just gone. I needed a man, not a coward hiding behind camo. That word. Coward. It didn't sting. It burned. And the worst part? She said it loud, so everyone could hear. I looked around the church. Our family sat there in stunned silence. Nobody stopped her. Nobody defended me. I wasn't just betrayed, I was abandoned. Nick groaned from the floor, blood trailing from his lip. You were gone, man, he muttered. You left her to rot. She was mine to rot with, I snapped. Emily slapped me. Hard. Get out. You're disgusting. You're nothing now. This is my life. She turned to the priest and barked, keep going. Let's finish this damn wedding. Can you believe that? Blood on the altar. A bruised man on the floor. And she still wanted her fairy tale ending. But I wasn't done. I turned to the pews. Mom, Dad, you sat through this. My father looked down. My mother whispered, we didn't know how to stop her. We thought you were dead. I growled. I walked to my son, knelt down. I'm not dead, buddy. I came home for you. He nodded. His lip quivered. I know, Dad. I took his hand, turned to Emily. This isn't over. And I walked out, blood boiling, fist throbbing, mind racing. She thought she could bury me while I was still breathing. Now I'm gonna burn everything she ever touched. I didn't go home. Home wasn't home anymore. That house, our house, where I painted the baby's room with my own hands, where we danced barefoot in the kitchen at midnight, now it was a crime scene in my heart. Instead, I took Ethan and crashed at a cheap motel on the edge of town, a place that smelled like old cigarettes and betrayal. Fitting. He fell asleep hugging my arm. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, the events of the day playing on repeat in my head like a horror film stuck on loop. Emily's words echoed loudest. You're nothing now. The woman I dreamed of during gunfire, the one whose name I whispered when I thought I'd die, had stood at the altar with my best friend while our son watched from the pew. I didn't just lose a wife. I lost my whole damn identity. The next morning, I started digging. I needed answers. Not just for me, for Ethan. He deserved the truth. Not the candy-coated crap she was feeding him. So I called up my old buddy Kyle, a guy who still owed me a favor from Iraq. He worked cyber forensics now. Not exactly legal, but let's just say he could find out anything. You sure you want this? He asked. I need to know how long this has been going on, I said. And how deep? It took him 2 hours. He sent me screenshots, emails, texts, photos. Emily and Nick had been seeing each other for over a year and a half. While I was risking my life, they were playing house in my bed. Dates, weekend trips. She sent him photos of herself in lingerie, my lingerie captioned with things like, I never felt this alive, and he's not coming back. One message hit me harder than a sniper shot. If he comes back, I'll tell him the marriage was already dead. He's too broken to fight for anything anyway. She didn't just cheat. She planned my replacement. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. It all started to make sense. The coldness in her voice during our rare phone calls. How she always rushed off the video chat. How Ethan never seemed to be around when I called. She was already with Nick back then. I slammed my phone down and punched the motel wall so hard I split my knuckles open. Blood dripped onto the carpet. I didn't care. I felt nothing. Or maybe I felt everything, all at once. Rage, disgust, sorrow, humiliation. I didn't sleep that night either. The next morning, I took Ethan to school and told him I had a surprise for him later. He smiled, but I saw the confusion behind his eyes. I wasn't the only one she betrayed. She poisoned his childhood. I drove to her house. Her car was in the driveway. I let myself in with my key. She didn't bother changing the locks. She probably assumed I'd crawl away somewhere and drink myself into silence like some broken soldier. But I'm not broken. I'm awake now. She was in the kitchen, on the phone, laughing, wearing my hoodie. Get off the phone, I said, my voice flat. She turned, startled, then rolled her eyes. What the hell are you doing here? This is still my house. Not for long. I stepped closer. I know everything. The texts. The pictures. The nights you spent in our bed. Her face went pale for a split second, but just as fast, she snapped back into her usual cold smirk. So? You left. I moved on. Get over it. You lied to her son. To your family. To my family. And you had the audacity to call me a coward? She shrugged. You were always too weak to keep me interested. That was her game, twist the knife and smile while doing it. I leaned in close. I came back early to surprise you. To marry you again, Em. I had a second ring in my bag. Her eyes flickered, but no apology came. Just silence. I walked away before I did something I'd regret. But this war was far from over. 2 days later, I met Nick. No, not by accident. I made the meeting happen. I knew his routine. He still worked at that smug finance firm downtown, the same place where I helped him get his first job 10 years ago. I waited across the street in my truck, engine running, watching the front doors like a hawk. When he stepped out in his tailored blue suit, sipping some overpriced iced coffee like nothing had happened, I saw red. I got out. Calm. Measured. But inside, I was a storm waiting to explode. He didn't notice me until I was a few steps away. Then his face dropped like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Tyler, he started, voice thin. Look, man. I didn't let him finish. I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him into the glass of the coffee shop behind him. People gasped. Someone yelled for security. Speak carefully, I growled, inches from his face. I've already cracked your jaw once. This time, I won't stop there. He held up his hands. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. You didn't mean? I spat. You slept with my wife, you worm. You played catch with my son while sneaking into my bed. How long, Nick? How long were you betraying me with that woman? He stammered. A year. A little more. Why? He hesitated. Then, like a true coward, he deflected. She said you changed. Said you were distant. That you didn't call. That she cried every night. I actually laughed. It wasn't even funny, it was hollow, bitter. I called every night, Nick. I begged her to send me photos of Ethan. I sent her letters, money, gifts. I had a ring made for our anniversary. And you were here, what, playing house with my wife? Screwing her while I was dodging bullets? He didn't say a word. Good. I released his shirt and stepped back. I'm not done, I said. You think this is just about betrayal? It's not. You gave her comfort while I was gone. Fine. But you stood at that altar in front of my son. You looked him in the eye and pretended to be his father. Nick opened his mouth, but I turned and walked away. He wasn't worth another word. That night, Emily texted me. You need to stop causing scenes. You're embarrassing yourself. I stared at the message for a long time, then sent her back one photo, just one. It was the screenshot of her telling Nick, if he comes back, I'll tell him the marriage was already dead. She didn't reply. The next morning, I got a call from my lawyer friend, Jenna. She and I had known each other since college. She always had my back. When I told her the whole story, she didn't waste a breath. Let's ruin her. I started collecting everything. Photos, messages, bank statements, proof that she used my deployment as her excuse to cheat, lie, and manipulate. That woman didn't just betray me emotionally, she drained our savings account while I was away. Spent thousands on vacations, spa days, fancy clothes. All while pretending to struggle raising Ethan on her own. She was wearing $400 shoes while telling the neighbors she was barely getting by. And Nick? That gutless clown financed half her little fantasy world. Paid for hotel rooms, dinners, even a trip to Cancun during our wedding anniversary. I'd been in the desert sweating bullets, thinking about her every damn second. While she was sipping cocktails by a pool, I felt sick. But it got worse. One night, Ethan came into my motel room crying. She said, I don't have to call you Dad anymore, he whispered. She said I can call Nick that instead. I froze. She was poisoning him against me. That was the moment I stopped feeling pain and started planning war. She wanted a clean break. A wedding, a new life, full custody. She thought I'd just fade away into the background. But I wasn't done. This wasn't over. She tried to erase me from the picture. Now I was going to make sure she never forgot who I was. 3 days later, I walked into family court with a folder full of dynamite. Emails, bank statements, audio recordings, screenshots of Emily's texts to Nick, disgusting, mocking, cruel. I even had a copy of the wire transfer she made using our joint account to book hotels, spa weekends, and designer junk while telling me she couldn't afford new shoes for Ethan. Jenna, my lawyer, was a beast in heels. Calm, sharp, and absolutely ruthless. She looked through my documents, nodded, and said only one thing before the hearing. She's gonna bleed. And she did. Emily came in looking like she always did, overconfident, smug, in a dress too short for court. Nick wasn't with her. Probably hiding under a rock after what I did to him outside that coffee shop. She smiled like she already won, like the court would just hand her everything because she's pretty and plays the victim. But the moment Jenna stood up, that smile cracked. Your Honor, she began, my client, Tyler, is a returning military veteran who spent the last 2 years serving overseas while his wife, Emily, emptied his accounts and began an extramarital affair with his best friend. We have evidence showing not only the financial betrayal but an intentional effort to alienate his son from him. Emily's lawyer, a nervous guy with a comb-over and a tie that screamed public defender, stood no chance. He objected, fumbled, asked for recesses, but it was over before it began. I watched Emily's face lose all color as Jenna dropped photo after photo on the table. One image showed Nick and Emily in matching robes at a luxury spa. The timestamp? The same week I was nearly killed in a convoy ambush. She knew. I had emailed her from a hospital bed. She didn't even reply. The judge ordered a temporary freeze on all joint assets. Full custody hearing scheduled. She tried to speak, said I was aggressive, scary, unfit. Jenna calmly handed the judge the footage of Emily screaming at Ethan at a birthday party, calling me a worthless coward. Her voice cracked when she realized it was recorded. She had no idea I'd been documenting everything since I got back. After the hearing, she stormed out of the courtroom and waited for me outside like she was ready for round 2. You think you're smart, huh? She snapped, dragging me through court like I'm some villain? I stared at her, calm as hell. You are the villain, Emily. You cheated. You lied. You stole. And you tried to erase me from my son's life. She scoffed. You're not winning, Tyler. I'll take Ethan. I'll take the house. You think one hearing scares me? No, I said, but the truth scares you. She stepped closer. You were never enough for me. That's the real truth. There it was, the mask fully off. I nodded slowly, then walked away. Later that night, I picked up Ethan from school. We went to the diner near the motel, sat in our old booth. He ate pancakes for dinner and smiled for the first time in weeks. Do I have to live with Mom? He asked quietly. I took his hand. We're gonna fight for what's right, okay? I'm not going anywhere. Ever again. He looked at me with those same eyes that had seen too much already. She yells at me when I talk about you. My stomach twisted. Then we'll make sure you don't have to hear her yell anymore. That night, I opened my laptop and wrote a letter, not to Emily, not to the court, but to myself. A letter to remember who I was. A man who went to war and survived. A father. A fighter. A husband who got stabbed in the back but didn't stay down. She thought I'd break. She had no idea I was just getting started. Emily didn't know I had people watching her. After court, she got cocky. Thought the worst was behind her. Thought I'd go crawl into some hole and let her play happy house with Nick. But I had something better than revenge. I had patience. And a plan. Kyle, my old army buddy turned digital bloodhound, was still working behind the scenes. While she paraded around town acting like the queen of destruction, Kyle was digging into her phone records, her emails, and every digital footprint she left behind. It's amazing what a woman will say when she thinks no one's listening. One night, Kyle called me, voice tight with excitement. You're gonna want to hear this, he said. I found her second account. Second what? Email. She's been using it for months. Mostly to talk about you. In the court. But get this, she's been discussing a fake abuse claim. I froze. What? She's planning to tell the court you hit her. That Ethan saw it. She's setting you up, man. I went cold. She wasn't just evil, she was dangerous. She was willing to lie under oath, drag our son into it, and try to destroy what was left of me to get full custody. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. Can you get proof? Kyle didn't answer. Instead, he sent a voice recording. Emily's voice, crystal clear. If he doesn't give me the house, I'll tell the court he got violent. Maybe say Ethan saw it. It'll scare the judge enough. I'll cry. They'll believe me. My stomach turned. I nearly dropped the phone. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was war. I sent the recording to Jenna. Her reply was short. We'll burn her to the ground. A week later, Emily showed up at the motel. Uninvited. She knocked like she owned the place. I opened the door, found her standing there in tight jeans and a leather jacket, playing the part of the misunderstood ex. We need to talk, she said, brushing past me. I shut the door. She looked around at the worn-out walls and scoffed. Nice place. Living the dream, huh? What do you want, Emily? She turned, fake tears already forming. I think we've been too hard on each other. Ethan's the one suffering. Maybe we can work something out. No court. I stared at her. You mean drop the custody case? She nodded. Maybe. If you give me the house. And agree to supervised visitation. Just until things cool down. There it was. The trap. She thought she was being clever. I leaned against the table. And if I don't? Her eyes darkened. Then I'll tell the court you hit me. You sure you want to go down that road? I asked, almost smiling. She crossed her arms. You think they won't believe me? I know they won't. I picked up my phone, pressed play. Her voice filled the motel room. If he doesn't give me the house, I'll tell the court he got violent. She turned ghost white. You recorded me? I leaned in close. No, Emily. You recorded you. I just had someone smart enough to find it. She exploded. You're insane. You're sick. No, I said. I'm finally sane. And you just buried your case. She slapped the phone out of my hand. I didn't flinch. You're done, I said. Take your lies, your fake tears, and get the hell out of my life. She screamed something I can't even remember. It was just noise by then. I didn't react. I just opened the door and held it open. She stormed out. But this time, she wasn't the one in control. That night, I sat with Ethan as he watched cartoons, his laughter cutting through the darkness like a flashlight in a tunnel. For the first time in months, I felt something I thought I'd lost. Peace. The storm was far from over. But now, I had the high ground. 2 days after Emily's meltdown at the motel, I walked into court with a calm so sharp it could cut steel. Jenna had printed transcripts. Kyle had timestamped the files. We had everything locked in, ready to drop a bomb in front of the judge that would make Emily's lies fall apart like a house of cards. She came in late, dressed like she was going to brunch with her fake friends. Her lawyer looked nervous, flipping through papers he hadn't prepared for. I almost felt bad for the guy. Almost. The judge looked at both sides. We're here to discuss custody of Ethan Marshall. Has anything new come to light since our last session? Jenna stood. Yes, Your Honor. My client has obtained evidence that the mother, Ms. Emily Marshall, intended to file a false abuse claim against him for leverage in this court. We have a voice recording of her admitting this, along with supporting digital communications. The courtroom fell silent. The judge raised a brow. Proceed. Jenna clicked her pen, calm as a surgeon. Exhibit C. Recording, dated last Thursday. Audio verified. She played the recording. Emily's voice came through loud and clear. If he doesn't give me the house, I'll tell the court he got violent. Maybe say Ethan saw it. The silence after it ended was crushing. Emily didn't look up. Her lawyer leaned toward her, whispering something frantically. She just sat there, hands in her lap, completely exposed. I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't see the woman I used to love. I saw the shell of a manipulator caught in her own game. The judge exhaled. Ms. Marshall, do you deny that this is your voice? Emily finally spoke. I was angry. I didn't mean it. It was taken out of context. Context, the judge repeated. You threatened to use your child and a false claim of abuse to manipulate the outcome of this court. That's not context. That's perjury and child endangerment. Her lawyer asked for a recess. Denied. The gavel came down like thunder. Until further notice, Mr. Marshall is granted temporary sole custody. Ms. Marshall will be allowed supervised visitation only, pending further investigation. This court does not tolerate weaponizing a child or the justice system. Emily started crying. Real tears this time. But no one in that courtroom cared anymore. I stood still. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. I just placed my hand on the table and breathed deep, full, alive. Outside the courtroom, she chased after me. Tyler, please. I didn't think you'd go this far. I turned around, slow. You were ready to ruin me. To take my son and turn him against me. You think I care about how far this goes now? She reached for my arm. I stepped back. I loved you, she said. Desperate now? Once. No, I said, my voice like ice. You love control. And I gave it to you. But not anymore. You're really going to do this to me? She whispered. I didn't do anything to you, Emily. You did this to yourself. And I walked away, leaving her standing in the courthouse parking lot, mascara running, clutching her purse like it was her last lifeline. That night, Ethan and I celebrated. Not with cake or streamers, just the two of us, pizza on the motel bed, watching Back to the Future for the 5th time. He leaned against me like he used to before everything went sideways. You're not going to leave again, right? He asked. I looked at him, hand on his shoulder. Never again. The war was almost over. But I wasn't finished yet. Emily still had my house. Still had access to accounts she drained. Still walked free like she hadn't tried to destroy everything I was. And as much as I wanted peace, I wasn't done taking back what she stole. The next step wasn't about rage. It was about balance. She took too much time, money, my name, my son's peace of mind. Now that the courts saw through her lies, it was time to get the rest of my life back. And that meant reclaiming the house. Not because I needed the walls or the furniture, but because it was mine. I built that place with busted knuckles and a soldier's paycheck. Every corner held a piece of who I used to be. And she defiled it. After the custody win, Emily went quiet. No texts. No late-night threats. I think the court stripped away the last mask she had. Now she was just a woman caught in a lie, exposed and cornered. But I knew her too well to think she'd walk away without trying something underhanded. So I stayed one step ahead. I filed a motion to freeze the remaining accounts and launch a formal review into how our joint funds had been used while I was deployed. Jenna helped connect me with a financial investigator, an old friend of hers named Darnell who had a gift for sniffing out fraud. Within a week, he found everything. Emily had been moving money from our joint account into a hidden savings fund. Over $46,000. Bit by bit. Transfer by transfer. And it didn't stop there. There were purchases under fake business names. A designer bag boutique in Arizona. A skin clinic in New York. Charges from hotel bars in Vegas. when she was supposed to be visiting her mother. Darnell put together a clean, brutal dossier. I dropped it off with Jenna, who smiled like a shark with blood in the water. You ready to push this all the way? I didn't come this far to let her keep the spoils. We filed suit. Meanwhile, Ethan and I moved out of the motel and into a temporary rental. It was small, old, had a leaky faucet and carpets from the 90s, but it was ours. I made pancakes every morning and walked him to school. I helped with math homework, even when I barely understood it myself. And at night, when he asked if his mom could come over, I stayed honest without turning bitter. She's got to fix some things first, buddy, but you can still love her. That part's not wrong. His eyes told me he understood more than he should have. The day of the asset hearing, Emily showed up looking nothing like the woman from the wedding. Her hair was messy, her eyes sunken. That fake power she'd worn like armor was gone. I almost felt something. Not pity, just the memory of love that once existed between us. A version of her that didn't survive the war I didn't know we were in. Jenna presented the evidence. All of it. Account transfers. Hidden funds. Misuse of joint credit. Misappropriation of child support. Emily didn't fight back. She didn't even speak. Her lawyer just kept shaking his head like he couldn't believe what he'd walked into. The judge ruled quickly. My accounts were restored. The house was awarded to me. Emily was ordered to pay restitution over time or face garnishment. After the gavel dropped, I didn't look at her. I just stood, shook Jenna's hand, and walked out. Not a single word passed between us. She didn't follow me this time. And that silence? It was the sweetest sound I'd heard since I stepped off the plane from overseas. Back at the rental, Ethan and I celebrated with grilled cheese and root beer. He didn't understand the court stuff, but he knew something big had changed. He looked up at me, mustard on his chin. We're going home soon, huh? Yeah, but, I said. We are. And this time, I wasn't coming home to a lie. I was building a new life from the ruins. Not because I had to, because I chose to. 2 weeks later, I stepped back into my house. Not hers anymore. Mine. The keys felt heavy in my hand, like they carried the weight of every betrayal, every sleepless night in a motel, every tear Ethan held back trying to make sense of the chaos. I stood in the doorway for a moment, just breathing in the silence. No lies. No perfume covering up guilt. No more pretending. The living room looked almost the same, except emptier. She'd taken whatever she could in her final, desperate retreat. The TV was gone. Some of the furniture too. A few photos remained on the wall, mostly of Ethan. But the ones of us, of her and me, torn out of the frames. I picked up one of them. A picture of our son at the beach. Her arm used to be around me in the shot. But now it was just Ethan, smiling at the waves. Alone. It felt poetic. I spent the day cleaning, scrubbing her fingerprints off the kitchen counters, throwing out the sheets she used while Nick was here. I found one of his watches in the bathroom drawer. Left behind, like he forgot this was my life he stepped into. I dropped it in the trash. By sunset, Ethan ran through the door, backpack bouncing, eyes wide. We're really home? Yeah, buddy, I smiled. We're really home. He walked from room to room like he was exploring a castle. I watched him run his hand over the wall where his growth chart used to be. I promised we'd redraw it tomorrow. Fresh start. That night, I tucked him into his old bed, now covered with new sheets, blue ones with little rocket ships. He looked up at me, eyes blinking heavy with sleep. Is Mom still mad at us? I paused. She's figuring herself out. But none of this is your fault. You know that, right? He nodded slowly. I know. I just miss when everything felt normal. I do too. I kissed his forehead. But we've got something better now. We've got truth. He fell asleep holding the stuffed wolf I gave him before I deployed. Still had it. Still held on. A few days later, Emily texted me. You win. I hope you're happy. I stared at the message, unreadable. It wasn't about winning. There were no winners in betrayal. Just survivors. I didn't reply. She tried to ruin me. Had nearly succeeded. But in the end, all she did was teach me how strong I really was. And how fragile love can be when trust is treated like a toy. A week later, I met Jenna for coffee to finalize the last of the paperwork. Custody was now permanent. Emily had visitation rights twice a month supervised for now. Financial restitution was in motion. She'd avoided jail time, but only barely. Hell of a storm you made it through, Jenna said, sipping her drink. I nodded. Still feels like I'm coming out of a dream sometimes. She smiled. Nightmare, more like. Yeah, but it's over now. She leaned back. So what's next for Tyler Marshall? I thought about it. About the silence in my house, the empty fridge, the job offers I hadn't returned. About Ethan's laugh when we walked past the park, about the way he held my hand like it still meant something sacred. Peace, I said. That's what's next. To anyone reading this, any man standing where I stood. Don't ignore the signs. Don't let love blind you to lies. But more importantly, don't let betrayal break you. There's life after betrayal. There's clarity, fire, purpose. There's a version of you that's sharper, wiser, and more dangerous because of what you've survived. She told the world I abandoned her. But I never abandoned anyone. She abandoned herself, and I came back a better man than I was when I left. Not because of her. In spite of her.